Wait, did you start it or I started?
I started it already. So there are basically 3 documents that I want to talk about, and I have already mentioned them in the description of this. So my name is Madhusudhan Pathak, and I'm working on this field of AI from last 6 years. And I tend to work by myself because of the way that education system is structured in my country. We are not really talking about AI in the first place. All of my bases are very philosophical. I first try to understand the things as it is done in humans or as humans do it, and then I try to implement them in machines. And for understanding the human part, I tend to follow the philosophical way, or how it is done in our philosophies. And that's why I have, first I would like to talk about this FDE. So there are 2 points that are very useful to be understood from FDE to understand about what I have in the alignment thing. So the FDE itself is very philosophical, and is made for a different purpose. But for the AI thing and for the alignment thing, the thing that we can extract from here is the concept of evolution of wisdom in human itself. So if we see the human mind as well, and if we see the evolution of human brain, then the way it is designed and the way actual wisdom is worked and is defined in the books is basically turning off the prefrontal cortex and not being completely logical, or a segment that is different from perception, from logic and intelligence. If we see with respect to the neuroscience approach, the default mode area network and the prefrontal cortex working of logic, then all of the books suggest and all of the philosophical ways suggest to have proper amount of wisdom, we also need the emotional part of human, but we also need to be in connect with our non-logical segment of being humans. And basically humans are defined as intellectual creatures who are also wise. So for alignment thing, this is my basic approach, that we are not required to make them aligned to us, we are required to make them wise. And if they are wise enough, if the machines also have wisdom as they have intelligence, they will automatically tend to align with us. I'll talk about this point more when I'll talk about the instrumental goal convergence and the optimizers that we're using in the current inner alignment problems. Yeah, so my point here is one of the ways that we can reach to wisdom, or the ways that human reach wisdom itself, is firstly properly understanding and working with knowledge. That is all that all has to do with intelligence and perception and all. Illusion, enchantment, these all words are very philosophical, but it has its own meaning if we come to the technical part of the picture. The transformers that we have in our language models can be related with the enchantment part of this segment or realization part of this segment. If you will read this whole document and you will try to make parallel of it with the workings of transformers in a philosophical way, how they take data and make tokenize it and all the stuff, you'll find similars of what I'm trying to say. My point here is that knowledge and intelligence can never reach and become wisdom. Wisdom is something that is different from intelligence. It's like 2 different things that are designed for 2 different purposes. For example, human eyes are designed to see and ears are designed to listen. These 2 have very different functionality. It's not like no matter what we do visually, we cannot hear, and no matter what we do through our ear, we cannot see. So similarly, there's no amount of intelligence can result in wisdom or can result in being wise, and no amount of wisdom can result in intelligence. So we are already working with one part, but to work with the other part, or to make machines also wise as humans, or as the way that evolution is working right now, we'll have to take a different approach. It's not like we can just advance intelligence enough that it becomes wise. It's not like a linear path, as it is trying to be done in a lot of ways by the companies and a lot of people. They just think that it is possible to make machines more intelligent and more intelligence, and after a point the intelligence will lead to wisdom, or by wisdom I mean a peaceful way to live with humans, or aligned AIs. These all are the same things. I use different terms for them. So first of all, this is a take of mine, and I say this only based on the philosophical basis and evolutionary basis. how evolution, when evolution was designing humans, or even humans were designed, then intelligence was not enough, and the component of being social and living in a group and having emotion was also very much necessary to make the whole functionality of evolution go along, and to make us aligned with the environment or the nature. If we see on evolutionary plane, then at this moment it's like we are playing the role of nature, and this AI thing is playing the role of humans. In this document, I submitted it somewhere, I guess. I talked about this problem, what evolution did, and how evolution worked out this problem of alignment. Because as we tend to learn from evolution and the way human body works, similarly, we need to learn and follow the path of evolution. We learned from evolution how brain works for us through the neurons and neural networks and all, and now we need to learn from evolution how evolution aligned us with nature. So for aligning us with nature, evolution used different ways. I'll come for that later. So we are learning from the evolution and following the evolution way. And the conclusion from FD that we need to take is that we don't need to follow rigorously intelligence to reach the conclusion of being intelligent. Also, we need to take different path and moment for intellect to wisdom. So we need to change the way that we are working with AIs. We don't just need to make it rigorous. Now, coming to the second aspect of this, that is DSW. In this, the whole path, I've defined how the whole segment of intelligence and wisdom is working in machines, how it is playing along. So if we see the current AI trends and how the technology of computers is going on, then this is what is going on: observation, analysis, logic, intellect. Till now, with the current machines, we have reached till perceptions, and this is like just a rough way to denote what is actually happening. When I say data, then basically the data extraction algorithm that we use to do all algorithm designing in all of our programming is basically data, information, and understanding. And then all the neural network thing that we do and all the AI thing that we are doing using reinforcement learning and all, that is basically the perception segment. To start with the wisdom thing, we just don't need to make it regress. We need to change the whole way that we are working with AIs. We need to start with verisimilitude, intuition, and consciousness. Impact here basically denote alignment. As you can also see by the image, that is what I have tried to denote, that all things are properly aligned. That is, the AI is properly aligned with human values and it is working with ethics and all. So we have to start with verisimilitude, and the verisimilitude segment that I have designed is not really is described as appearance of truth, but these all things are very much philosophical at this moment, not just in the AI field, but in the philosophy field itself. There is no proper definition of verisimilitude and how do humans do it themselves. And since we don't know how humans themselves decide it, and there is no evolutionary way, therefore we'll have to find out our different ways to work with this thing of verisimilitude. This path of DSW is being followed by machines at this moment. Currently, we are following this path, and at this moment, we are till perception. What the world is doing right now is trying to align machines with humans in different ways, and those different ways are not resulting anywhere. We are just inventing new ways to fail, basically. So basically, there is this path that is currently being worked upon: humans to outer alignment problem, that is inner alignment problem, then there's goal misgeneration problem, and then there's this machine. So there's a lot of videos on this you can just find on internet. How what we actually want is not being properly conversated or properly being translated for machines. We want to machines to do something, but since we are not able to tell it properly, or the machines don't understand what we actually want, it just takes us on the face value. Therefore, there are different levels of problem. There is this concept of mesa optimizers also that comes with the inner alignment problem, and it is also a mess, and this mess will keep on continuing, as I said initially, because we are just forcing our waste in the machine waste, and we are forcing machines to align in without using the different approach that we should take. It's like we are forcing our eyes to start listening music. It is not possible, and that is why all the research that is being done and all the ways that we're following till now, it is all reaching to some or other dead end. We earlier had the outer alignment problem, then to solve outer alignment problem, we created the inner alignment problem, and then to solve that, we created the goal misgeneration problem. And after this also, we will create more and more ways to solve this alignment problem, but in ways to solving those things, we'll create more problems as we have been doing till now. no matter how many amount of optimizers or more between layers or hidden layers or more ways we use, it will always result in problem only. So it is useless to keep on jumping from one hoop to another, because it is like a non-ending. It will keep on happening, and we can see in this in the ways that it is evolving. And if you like want to refer to papers and research, then you can also do that. You can just go and read this whole document to get a proper idea about this thing. The fundamental problem why these all ways are failing and why all of these things will fail as well, because one of the problems with the ways that these alignment problems are done is that we are trying to make a function optimizer, they call it, or the utility function, and then they are trying to design such a utility function that is aligned with humans and what humans want. But the problem is humans themselves are not actually very clear all the time what is our terminal goals. Humans have very like fluid terminal goal. In whole of philosophy, there is no proper and clear answer of what is the purpose of human, what is the meaning of being alive. From nihilism to a lot of philosophical approaches, they are not just philosophical approaches from the religious book. Everything does not have a proper, discrete, and defined answer of what is our terminal goal. Humans themselves don't know their terminal goal. So since we don't know our terminal goal, and we ourselves work on very instantaneous terminal instrumental goals, we don't have any terminal goal, but we are trying to design machines to have terminal goal that is aligned with our terminal goals. This is the fundamental problem that I can see that is causing all of these problems. And the thing that is supposed to bridge this difference between our terminal goal and machine terminal goals are the optimizers. So the optimizers themselves are trying to optimize something that does not exist. There is no terminal goal that humans have. Humans have instrumental goals that is dependent on other terminal goals. So the whole problem of terminal goal and instrumental goal, it is because of the concept of humans themselves are not being completely clear what is their purpose, what is the purpose of being alive and all. So from a philosophical point of view, that is why it is not making sense, and it will never make sense. That is what I also talked about in FD, but it is in very abstract format. The problem that we generally encounter with the AI models of instrumental goal converging to self-preservation, self-improvement, and all this kind of thing that we don't actually want machines to have, or we don't design them for it. And it is happening mainly because we ourselves are designed in that way. So we are designing machines and it will work in that way only because it is evolutionary ways to work. So the instrumental goals that are converging from the self perspective, and that self is machines, because it is designed by evolution in us, and in that self is humans. So it's like machines are doing what humans have done earlier. There's nothing new with respect to evolutionary ways of working. But the problem is in the path of evolution, there was a point, or there is a point, if we read the evolutionary, I don't remember the name of that book, I guess Sapiens or something. In that there was a point, there is a segment in which humans were not wise enough or not social enough to work in alignment with evolution, in environment and the surroundings, and they were destroying environment with no proper control. Now humans are aligned after they have proper amount of wisdom. There is a phase when there is no proper amount of wisdom in the superior thing and the inferior thing, and in that phase, that phase is the most critical phase in which we need to align the two things, so that after that phase is over, like after the point when the superior thing is properly aligned with the inferior thing, then the things go smoothly hand to hand, as it is happening with humans and environment at this moment. But that phase needs to be properly dealt with, and that is why whole alignment is required. Yeah, so the one of the best way that we can do it, and again, I don't really remember in which philosophical paper I read about this, but the best way to do it is to make humans as the one of the most fundamental instrumental goal in all of the in all of the optimizers that we are designing, and to not have our optimizers based on or fixed upon terminal goals. Because terminal goals are for humans that have not worked properly. That is why humans don't themselves work on terminal goals. They themselves just work on a lot of instrumental goals. Instead of just designing optimizers to work on a fixed terminal goal, there should be a lot of chunks and instantaneous terminal goals that machines should optimize themselves for, as it is done with humans, as evolution designed humans to do. Instantaneous instrumental goals should have humans as their center point, like as in the place of self, what humans are for themselves. So the other way that this machine is working and can work properly is aligning machine only till they figure out themselves. This phase that I'm talking about, this small amount of time in which machines are not properly aligned with humans. In this moment, it is machine and human. Earlier, it was human in evolution. So we just need to focus on that time. Again, if you just read this segment, I have, if this document I write for humans alignment, I mean human aligning with environment. So for human alignments, evolution used emotion to formulate empathy in humans, alongside creating a suitable ecosystem pressure for humans' physical survival. That is, it is not just working for one function, it is also reinforcing itself. So we need to design something like emotions in machines also, so that they can use that to get aligned with us. And we don't need to design it in a way that it has serves only one purpose, but we need to design it in a way that the more it get enforced in making us aligned with machines, the more it gets stronger. That is, it happens with humans also. So after like thinking about all this thing, the it comes about how do we actually do all this philosophical thing, or all of this talk theoretical things, like proper ways to implement these things and make something out of all of this. So the first thing that is extremely required is a theory of mind, and that is essential for self introspection and reflection. Just before this conference, before this I was, the last thing that I was attending, there was a concept of self autonomous. I don't remember who was talking that thing, but he was talking about the same thing that I want to talk about at this moment, theory of mind thing. Yeah, Barry Cook. Yeah, so he was also talking about the same thing. And what I actually mean to refer here about a necessity of a theory of mind for introspection purpose. Introspection, again, essential for humans to gain wisdom. I'm not coming to that part of how human gain wisdom, because I'll come to that afterwards. But introspection is a very essential thing for gaining wisdom. And reflection along with introspection is again important. And for both of these things, in the last talk, it was mentioned how it can be done properly, a good way to do it. But the thing that was lacking, that he himself talked about, is a theory of mind. Humans developed this theory of mind and awareness just after it happened that they developed this gap thing. They were bridging this gap thing. So we should again learn from evolution and try to implement this theory of mind in machines as well. The theory of mind will be completely different than what it is for humans, because again, the mind itself that machines are developing using their intelligence is completely different from humans. So the ways to develop it would also be different. And now that is where the CQE things come into play. The CQE thing basically works upon this function of Realsiatron, I call it, just a fancy name. It is trying to imitate the perceptron, as it is done, as it is like the backbone or the most fundamental element of this of backpropagation, that is at very core of all AI learning and machine learning stuff. So similar to this perceptron, this is the new thing that I have been introducing. Again, I have not worked properly on this. I have to make it more proper and curate. So Realsiatron basically means stage into identity plus perception. Stage basically means here identity is basically all what one has formed using the intelligence or using the perceptron thing. Here identity can be replaced using perceptron, but perceptron with a sense of theory of mind. So when all of the ways that we are working with machines now using to simulate or to form intelligence, if we add theory of mind to them, we will get the identity thing. And the stage thing basically means the moment at which this flip happens in the evolutionary cycle. Stage can be defined, I'll have to refer to the documentation in which I wrote about this. Stage basically defines the moment at which the requirement of wisdom is properly seen, or what I have written in my DSW as verisimilitude, the elemental thing. And after we have this verisimilitude properly set, and here this multiplication thing is not really multiplication, because at every level of identity, at every level of perceptron, we will need a similar level of stage, a similar level of verisimilitude. So it will be more like a convolution of identity and stage that needs to be done to form a proper gradient of Realsiatron. Realsiatron basically means realization, because if you refer to DSW, then at this moment we have done all of this and we need to work on this thing. So here we have realization, what we have understanding, and basically intellect. So we have to formulate realization, and to form realization, we need Realsiatron. So basically, this Realsiatron is the new perceptron that I'm trying to make. One of the very important thing that needs to be added to all of this is the concepts of forward algorithm, the recent one by Jeffrey Hinton. One of the different takes that can be taken on the forward algorithm is that it is trying to maximize the efficiency of instrumental goal, then minimizing the losses in the terminal goal. So that the forward algorithm is also baked into this. And when I say this Realsiatron is to be implemented using the forward algorithm and not using the backpropagation algorithm. Again, I'm just using different words to talk about the same thing and not being clear about it in the first place. And again, as I said, because humans are not clear for themselves at this moment, the stage thing is still needs to be more theorized enough, as it is already done with the identity thing. But there is no base of constitute whatsoever in any ways. Like humans are not working on it in any ways. We already have intelligence. We already have perceptron. So it is easier for us to add theory of mind to it and form identity. But we have nothing that could work as versatility. I'm thinking about this and I'm working about this, and this is one of the things that I want to discuss here. Yeah. The next thing, perception. Here, I was not actually getting a good word what to write. In my notes, I have written illusion, illusive reality, because again, I've been taking a philosophical tone to all of this, and that is why I wrote illusive reality. But when I say illusive reality, basically mean the realization segment, the illusive enchantment reality. To make it into a technical word, into technical sense, uh, we need machines to have something that they can use to compare themselves in the form of improvement. Because again, if we refer to the philosophical ways and psychological ways of humans having intelligence, humans having wisdom, then the most important aspect of humans having intelligence uh, having wisdom is having a state to compare in which they don't have wisdom. Similar to these things are written in the in how panpsychism could work to solve the concept of this alignment, and how panpsychism is also written in a lot of is pursued by a lot of philosophers. I recently read some scientist, I should start writing down names and all, but he was talking about a different version of panpsychism, a modified and morphed version of panpsychism that can be used to do this thing, in which we can use a different morphed version of panpsychism to have a comparative state of wisdom between two states, so that we can use it to improve. Yeah, so that was basically the concept of Realsiatron. And now coming to this segment of non-output based processing, that is instrumental goal oriented, and the FFAEE, that is fluid abstract exploration. This one is specifically designed for making something similar to backpropagation, like the wisdom counterpart of backpropagation is non-output based processing, and the wisdom counterpart of reinforcement learning is FFAEE, or fluid abstract fundamental exploration ways. The fundamental problem with reinforcement learning that is always needs to be worked upon and balanced is of exploration versus exploitation thing. And to solve that exploration versus exploitation thing, there's this new way of FFAEE. These both things again are based on the forward algorithm. In fact, again, I will add this to the document. There is this video that I made talking about forward algorithm and how I perceive forward algorithm and what are the new things that I can find in the forward algorithm. Non-output based processing is again basically instrumental goal oriented processing, as it is done by humans itself, and again as it is defined by a lot of philosophers, it is defined by a lot of books, that the best way to work and facilitate alignment in humans. In humans also, there are different level of self that humans face that machines should also face if they are going to be aligned. That's a different thing that I have written about, but I'll talk about that later if someone is interested. But there's different level of self that humans have in themselves that they need to align properly to follow a terminal goal. So this non-output based processing basically means to focus on the instrumental goals enough to not care about terminal goals. The fluid abstract fundamental exploration is again the counterpart of reinforcement learning, how things work in reinforcement learning with respect to exploration and exploitation. It is designed in a way that exploitation will be exploration and exploration will be exploitation. Use all the good thing of exploration and exploitation, and again use it for wisdom thing, and you use it for this new paradigm that machines should start working in. And yeah, there are some two more points, but they are not related to the topic of alignment. They are regarding how we can use the quantum things and the secret quantum existence and what is the existence part. But I'm still working on them. I have written, like, made things still here only. I still need to work on them. That's why I did not write about them. So yeah, I guess that will be all for my talk.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, wait, let me just close the sharing stuff.
I missed the very beginning. Like, do you plan to implement this yourself, or what do you plan to take?
Yeah,
When do you take the project?
yeah, for the implementation thing, that's I'm planning not to do by myself, because I like to work on things in a theoretical way, like not in an engineering way. So I can tell how things should be implemented, but not really implement them. I've been that's what I'm trying to work on, ways that we can implement this. I read about all the classical things, how computers work in their base, in the classical ways, but the quantum things would be required, because the clocks that is properly implemented in machines would be limiting us to make something like emotions that humans have, because the concept of subconscious mind that humans have, and how a lot of emotions are facilitated and worked in subconscious mind, cannot be done in machines at this moment, because they don't have two different levels of mind or different levels of self that we have. So that's why we need to jump in the quantum thing. But again, I'm not sure about that. And implementations of different things, again, I've been seeing all these things from a philosophical point of view or a theoretical point of view. So implementation is like not really my strongest suit.
I think currently, for example, there is some movement, including among alignment researchers, to experiment with language model based architectures, which is limited in many ways, but the upside is that we don't need to do the hard work to move those things off the ground, because like just coding some glue on top of a language model to define some system roles for them and implementing some debate, it's quite easy. It's like just basic hundreds of lines of Python code, maybe. That's it. So this is a thing which could be experimented with quickly, and something could be derived from it. On the other hand, like very wide sweeping architectures, as you described, and I think the architectures that you described, it is even more radical, and some aspects of it will definitely make it much harder to anyone to become interested in implementing it. But even less ambitious, much less ambitious sort of architectures, such as LeCun's a path towards machine intelligence. I mean, he just proposed. He wrote this paper. He proposed architecture. He didn't implement it, but he assumes that okay, he's the leader of Facebook AI research group, so he has a lot of authority resources. Maybe he can assign a whole team implementing this approach, because it requires actual like ML engineering, which is still before we have almost AGI, which just can engineer everything for us. We cannot do it, and he has a lot of resources to do it, but then it's hard to see like how you could convince somebody to allocate resources to implement this.
Yeah, for the implementation of this thing and working in this way, it is kind of a negative thing if we are working on this machine learning field from long, because as I said, it is a completely different way to look at the problem. It's like not solving the problem, but solving the thing from which the problem is originating. So for someone, it can be a new way, a new experiment, a new research that is completely different from machine learning, or is just a link to it, but not is completely dependent on it. It is not actually machine learning's way. So if someone actually tries to work on it, then they can take inspiration from the current AI work, but the way will be completely new. And therefore the minds that are required to work in this must also have the philosophical understanding and of all these concepts from a philosophical point of view, like understanding terminal goal and understanding instrumental goal by reading a lot of philosophers and how they have been seeing this in humans and how things are working in humans. So it requires like more philosophers or more philosophical engineers than like actual hardcore rigorous engineers who just code and all. I've been seeing some recent things. I've not taken their notes, but they're actually implementing this non-output based processing that I talked about. When I saw this in the paper, I was very happy that they're actually working on this, but they're trying to make something that is not trying to optimize a final goal, a terminal goal. They're actually doing this non-output based processing. So they're trying to implement this thing, but they're like deviating from the main point and just coming to the field of wisdom. So yeah, it's a completely different paradigm, not an extension of the paradigm that they're already following.
It seems that you, like, when you say that people who should implement this, they should also like read the philosophy and understand it. You sort of make your goal, if there is such a goal, even harder, because engineers don't like reading philosophy generally, and so it even like a lot of AI writings from 70s, 80s, and 90s, and even early 2000s in good old-fashioned AI style, like how there could be, you know, this symbolic architecture with different bells and whistles. They, I think they thought about this architecture as more of engineering science rather than just philosophy or just you know, thinking about how things could be implemented. But I think today, well, of course, because of deep learning revolution, this paradigm was just eclipsed by just huge neural networks. But also when we now, I mean, by we, I mean many people who now start to build cognitive architectures, for example, on top of large language models or more complex architectures like LeCun's one or some others. They, I'm not sure they even read all the writings, and well, maybe they have read, maybe they pay lip service to, let's say, to Marvin Minsky. Okay, there's Society of Mind, and now we implement the Society of Mind with LLMs. But this idea of debate with different roles, I just take this idea of Society of Mind. It is quite simple idea, and you can, I think, quite easily stumble upon it and decide this is a good idea even without reading any Minsky. It's basically just a way of putting a reference in your paper, or like this idea I take it from Minsky or whatever. So this seems to be the fate of those writings like by Jerry Fodor and Minsky and other old cognitive scientists, like good old-fashioned style. And what you say, it seems that it is like currently it sets itself for the same path. Like, okay, this is interesting architecture, and if we will have AGI, because people probably won't do this because they're lazy, but the AGI, it is not lazy. It can implement anything, but then it can implement a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, as I was saying, again, it is in the philosophical stage at this moment. What AI was in its 70s or 60 times, people were just talking about it, they were writing about it, and they were not sure how to implement it. So the way that I'm proposing, or the way that I want to talk about, is similar to that way. It's not like we can do this by next year. So since it is in that state of the time, we need to have that like abstract representation ways and theories and philosophies. We first need to talk about those things properly, and then we can like go to the phase of AI after some time. AI came, the concept theories and ways of implementations came in the time of 60s and 70s, but the actual implementation came like after 50 years or 40 years. So same is happening with this, because again, since as AI was a completely different branch or ways of working artificial intelligence. So similarly, this is like artificial wisdom. It is not just extension of AI, it is artificial wisdom. So as AI needed to have a phase of philosophy, a phase of theory, a phase of representation, a phase of math, and then a phase of engineering and coding. Similarly, this artificial wisdom will also need to have a phase of philosophy, theory, representation, math, and coding. So yeah, it's a different thing only. And it's the way that I'm proposing, it's like in the starting phase, the first step in this field. And if the other way that people are trying to follow, that they are rushing into, that phase, that way, as I can see, as it is also happening, is not leading to any conclusive outcomes. Interpretability problem, the way that they're trying to solve through that way. Again, as I said with alignment, there will always be some level that we cannot interpret or that we cannot trust. In the alignment way that they're trying to solve, there will always be some level, there will always be something that we cannot align. There will always be a line of division between us and machines. And same with optimizers, same with generalization problem. If the way that the path that we're trying to follow, the shortcuts that we're trying to take, they will always lead to a dead end, because that does not have a proper philosophical background basing on it. And all good theories need to be based on proper philosophical backgrounds. So yeah, this is my way that it is not a shortcut for alignment. If we use shortcuts for alignment and AGIs, we will reach a dead end in the end, or we will reach a catastrophe end.
I have a different vision about philosophy, I guess, than you. I think philosophy, I think about it as there is two aspects, like two parts of it. One is very much foundational stuff, such as philosophy of science or some like foundation, but it is very compact. Like there is not a lot of content, like there is not a lot of substance to, yeah, basically philosophy of science or basic philosophical stances such as pragmatism. And then this more like substantial philosophy such as moral philosophy or whatever other kinds of, elaborate philosophy with a lot of content is developed. I think of it just as not as fundamental, but just something which is built on top of language. So it's all computation on top of language. We just seek, when we do philosophy, we just seek coherence of these pieces of text, philosophical text. Or if it sounds coherent, then it is good philosophy. But this sounding as coherent is just feature of our perception of language. So like how our internal LLMs think like in some completeness properties of this piece of text. So yeah. I think there is part of philosophy like the notion that there's just no philosophy is just all nonsense, it's just all science, all engineering is nonsense to me, and it was refuted many times, because when you do the statement, you already do philosophy, right? So you just cannot escape it. There is some philosophy, some basic elements of it.
With respect to how it is being done and the place of philosophical ways in other engineering ways. So it's like just philosophy, what I perceive philosophy is just meta science. Philosophy is basically meta science, science of science, the actual ways of science working. Yesterday, when I attended the conference of someone talking about metacognition, then the things that they're talking about using the mathematical ways, they all were basically talking about the philosophies of cognition and how does cognition itself work in its own ways. So with respect to intelligence also, there was a time when they were talking about intelligence using intelligence, the meta-intelligence phase. So the meta segment of any segment is the philosophical state of it. And everything should be based on their philosophical background. So if a thing is not based on their philosophical background, it is sure to fall. And that is again happening with the current time. So philosophy is like just a strong base thing on which things should be build up upon. If things are not built up upon a proper philosophical background, then they are sure to fall. All of the physics, all of the sciences that we follow, they all have strong philosophical background. They represent to think about our reality, about the ways that things are supposed to function, from evolutionary ways to the physical ways. They all are based on a proper philosophy, sensible ways. Again, the no shortcut ways. Everything that they're talking about are they are like trying to build the building without building the base of the building. They're just trying to make one floor, one building, one spot, one thing, but they're not building the base.
What you maybe think of philosophy, I often would think of as branches of cognitive science, like metacognition and like even something about rationality, because, for example, rationality, it's currently, this decision series logic, it's like philosophical logic, it's sort of branch of philosophy, but I think it's really a branch of cognitive science. But it's more maybe terminological difference than real difference.
It does not matter. Yeah, the work should be done. The terms does not matter. What's in the name. So yeah, the same thing. Philosophy, metacognition does not matter. The base thing, all of the words that I've been using like today, wisdom and intelligence, and as it is used currently, perceptron. This perceptron again is a concept of perception, and perception itself is a very philosophical thing. Reality depends upon perception. Perception shapes the world. From we can go from Marcus Aurelius to everyone. Perception itself is a very philosophical concept, but based on the understanding of perception, the concept of perceptron was formulated, and based on perceptrons only the whole AI thing runs. So philosophy has shown that it works if it has strong base already. And again, similar to perceptron, there needs to be something like that. Reinforcement learning, the concept of reinforcement learning itself is very philosophical. If we just strip it out of from AI and everywhere else and just see it as a concept, and it's a very philosophical concept of learning. If the implementation part of both perception and reinforcement are done in machines, so but they have very strong philosophical background. Similarly, with wisdom also, there is a very strong, it needs to be a very philosophical background that needs to be very clear and precise so that we can build upon it. I know it's a very bad quality video and bad quality presentation of all of my thoughts. I was just not in that much of a good state to do this thing, but I did whatever I can. Anyhow, except for this conversation, there were some other conversation as well. One of the most prominent one was with Inder P. I don't know his full name. So the topic basically was surrounding around what is actually wisdom that I am referring to, and what is wisdom that I am trying to artificialize, and how would we know if whatever we have made is wise or not. And to understand this, given that using it in artificial ways is already very tricky, the way that he presented it was, what if an alien civilization comes to Earth and we got to figure out that they're wise or not. So the definition that I finally came up to, that we talked about and I came to conclusion, was, if something is intelligence, they're already aligned. If they're not aligned, they're not intelligence. And then there was this other discussion that led me to more refinement of this definition, that if there is power difference, that is, if there is something that is superior and something that is inferior, and then the superior thing chooses, explicitly chooses it, they have the choice that they can do wrong things, that they can completely demolish the inferior one, they can completely clear out the inferior one, but then they choose not to clear out them and choose to maintain a balance or go for the right and balanced path. That is what wisdom is, to find the balanced part and not hurt or make or establish some authority over the inferior ones, even if you are superior. So yeah, that was the definition of wisdom that I was using, or I was referring to. I know I could have made all this better, but sorry for that. And yeah, I hope you liked the video, whatever it was, and bye, have a good day, enjoy.